Let's call this work session to order. This work session is on the Public Works reorganization. Let's go around the table and identify ourselves for the record. Dick Train with Assembly.
Elby Green Johnson.
Tim Steele.
Amy Domboski.
Pete Peters.
Ron Thompson.
Okay. So Ron, we know what we're talking about. You're here representing the administration.
Yes.
So lead us through it.
Okay. I'm going to start. Some of you know me, but maybe don't know the history of how long I've been here with the city. This is my 22nd year of working for the city. I started as a plan review engineer, moved to a senior plan review engineer, moved to the building official, moved to the director of development services, and now the director of public works. I've been a director for 15 years now in the two departments, 10 in development services and 5 for public works. So I just wanted to kind of tell you, and when I first started here was 1994. That was when there was quite a bit of conflict with regard to building and permitting and everything. So they launched a study back then. It was launched by Mayor Rick Meister. And at that point in time, he set a bunch of goals. And as you can see in what I'm going to say, the goals are still the same today. The same issues, the same things going on. Mainly having to have clear and understandable permitting that anybody can follow and make it real simple. Proactive with the customers, efficient technology, responsive. About a year, I'm going to go back about 3 years ago. The mayor called me in after a budget meeting. And at the end of this, I'm going to hand you some documents, and you'll have this presentation and some other documents in there. In that document that 3 years ago will be the Budget Advisory Commission meeting that I mentioned at that point in time. This type of thing it could be explored, could be make the city more efficient, more effective in the permitting realm. At that point in time, I presented it, worked through it, went with the mayor, talked with him, went with the OR, worked on the whole thing for at least a couple weeks. Mayor decided at that point in time he wasn't going to go forward with it. So this has been in the works for quite some time. A year ago, they called me in. He called me in his office and asked me if I'd take back over development services, that they were going to move Sharon to the port. She had some issues that she wanted to get done, and he wanted done at the port to fix all the things that are going on the port. So he moved her there, called me and said, would you be willing to take this on? Since I had done it I'd been in that area for 16 years at that point in time, or 20 years at that point in time. But had been out of there for 5 years. I said, sure, but I wanted to do a couple things that I thought I needed support for to be able to get and move the department forward to where the industry wants it. One of those was I needed full control of the Hansen system to revamp and refix it. Just to tell you, on January 1st, we did the 3rd revision of that, and now that's functioning as it was supposed to from the very beginning. So we took a little bit of time to do that. I think at the beginning of January, I got called into George's office, and he said that they were going a different direction. They were going to bring in Bob Kniefel to be building official, and that I wouldn't have to do that anymore. So that's fine. I sent an email off to the mayor thanking him for giving me the opportunity. I just told him it'd be nice to have been a part of selecting that person, moving in the same direction, trying to give my input on an area that I thought we were moving forward pretty well. At that point in time, the mayor sent back an email and said, hey, why don't we sit down and meet? Let's go discuss this. So he called me in, we discussed it a little bit, and that's when I think on a Friday, the day before Bob was coming into work, he said that he wanted to reorg it all underneath Public Works, and can I start the documentation? So basically the documentation had been done 3 years ago, so we just kind of revamped it, looked at it, made sure it still made sense today as it did 3 years ago. So same goals, just wanted to do that and make sure that you saw from 1997, same goals. Some things have been fixed, some things hadn't, but the goals are still the same. Smooth, fast, speed of permitting means businesses get operational, development happens. At the end of the day, I've met with ABC, HBA, AGC. We meet all the time on different things with regard to permitting in the last year. Most of this incorporates all of the things that they've said that we've wanted and that they keep voicing concern over.
Well, let me interrupt for a minute. Let the minutes reflect that we were joined by Ms. Jennifer Johnston, from South Anchorage. Go ahead, Ron, sorry.
So reorganization, why? I mean, I understand it's kind of a strange time to do it right before administration leaves, but I've been very strong in all my comments to the assembly, BAC, mayors, that I think a one department shop, that a person, if they're having an issue, whether it be traffic, private development, building, any of those, zoning, all of those, they can go to one person, and that one person then has the stability of handling all his staff to get the process done and fixed and sped up. And it hasn't been that. We've done multiple reorganizations. They've heard my point, but we've never got there. And it's always some other piece broken apart that, you know, for instance, 5 years ago, private development was in public works under the municipal engineer. That's roads and stuff in infrastructure. It got moved and put under the building official that does buildings. Seemed strange. I don't know why that exactly happened, but I was against it at that point in time, and I still am. I think it needs to be a consolidated group. So anyway, some of the reasons why. One, building season starts. It's starting now. Time to start is not next fall. One more building season missed means time, money, effort, and concerns with regard to building and development. And so, one, I think that conflicts among the codes, these are exact reasoning that were in the landline study as well. Conflicts among codes and regulations governing the work of different agencies. We're still in multiple agencies right now. The intent of Lamb and Lamb was to put everything in one agency, one organization, so you could come to one spot, get all the permitting, and move forward and get it done and speed. In the next comment, they said different interpretations of the same codes and regulations made by personnel in different departments. That goes on every day today, and that's the concern that the industry fights and argues about quite often, and says that leads to slow building, slow development, and they always say it's anti-development. My view is, I think that if you get one person, whether it be me or anybody, over top of one department, the consistency and the approach can be the same throughout all the process. Different and often confusing timeframes which govern pace. If you have different timeframes and different departments move at a different speed, you're only as good as the slowest piece. And my view is you can't change anything, and I'm a firm believer that I had the development services department for a long time, 10 years. At that point in time, I couldn't control the speed of traffic. I could not control the speed of private development. And so I've always pushed to saying the speed of getting all those different agencies together under one body, then you can control it, and you can control a consistent, time-consistent approach to where you can get development to happen. And it's all different, there's different philosophies, different ways to do things, obviously, but I still think that if you get it under one person, under one approach, you can move and you'll start seeing the speed of business happen. Different geographic locations, at least we fixed that. We have a permit center that has everybody in one building right now. Almost everything you can do is in one building. So that's been kind of solved. That's one of the pieces that has been solved in this whole process. Obviously, why one department? One-stop shop, one-stop permitting. That was what was intended by Lamb and Lamb. These are some quotes that they said, consolidating the community planning and development and building safety departments into one department, which is kind of there, but yet they forgot the APDIS, the drainage, the stormwater, the traffic. All those pieces are pulled out and in another department. So it's never, every time we did this reorg, it never grabbed everything and put them into one department. Locating consolidated departments in a convenient location, obviously that helped us there. But also linking of related services, fire, health, and human services. When they say that we relocated on-site well and septic in community development, so that's been solved, that's what they were talking about. Health and human services was the on-site well and septic piece, and that is located, so that's one piece. But private development, engineering, right-of-way, street maintenance, and utilities by electric communication, all of those areas are all in different departments right now. So in their language, if you ever read that, and I can get you a copy of that study, I was hired as building official a long time ago to implement Lamb and Lamb. So I knew most of everything that's in Lamb and Lamb, and I could read it today and say, wow, you can see why we started moving in the direction that we did. But every time we reorged, we missed certain key elements of the permitting process and left them in different departments, so different people to go see and different scenarios in each of those cases. And so I think and always have thought that putting it in one department, whether it be called community development, whether it be called public works, in this case, the mayor asked me to put it through as public works. So whatever that name may be, it's about putting everything in one department so a person can go and have one person to visit if they had a problem. And so anyway, at the bottom was my piece that just says, completing this link puts everything in public works and makes it a consistent approach. What are the benefits? I think one is clear supervisory skills from the department director to all of the deputy directors to be able to make things happen and do it consistently with control, being able to put turnaround times, tracking, all of those things in place. And I don't think, I had a lot of tracking mechanisms in place. Staff doesn't always like tracking mechanisms. They have really eliminated and not tracked some of the key elements in the permitting process. And that's why I think that I have a good knowledge of understanding what needs to be done and how to fix it. Accountability expectations, those are the measures that we're supposed to end up doing. Some of those things happen to do, I've been working with, Jerry and Sharon wrote a white paper policy for the mayor to sign about plan review. I took that and incorporated all the public work functions in it, and it's in on the mayor's desk now to try to get a signature, which talks about being a mayoral policy allows us to work with staff and make them adhere to this policy, which says you need to work with people, you need to phone call them, you need to use email, you need to use all of the technology that we can use these days, that in some cases, that's what the industry's saying they're not doing. And so this way, it allows us to kind of have the eighth floor support that motion to the staff and make sure that we keep up on speeds and time. The other thing down the bottom I wrote, initiating functional cross-training, basically because I think there's a lot of functions that can be brought together. For instance, the first one where private development has a single inspector. So if you know what private development is where the developers develop land and then they give us the roads at the end of that. We have one inspector for the entire municipality for that. Basically a dirt inspector. Right away, we have 6 inspectors and a lead. Those guys handle all of the repairs. So if you see a road that's there and they cut it open and they do a project in it, those guys, same, civil inspectors, dirt inspectors doing that process. There are 6, they're in a different department under a different supervisor. Capital projects, those are all the projects we build, all the roads that we build. 5 more inspectors, completely in a different department that deal with roads, same class spec, same everything, in a 3rd different supervisory place. It seems crazy to have those when we can put all 12 of them together, and now we can cover the whole city with 12, cross-train them in all of those 3 different types of road building. If you know one type of road building, you know them all. So we can cross-train and then cover the whole city with 12, or maybe we don't need 12 after we get going. Maybe we need 10. I mean, the thing is we're missing a lot right now. We're dealing with private development streets that are failing in 5 and less years. They're supposed to last 30 years. There's a problem, and it shows right there. When we have one inspector doing private development, that's a problem to me. And when you bring that together and you shrink up the pies of where these people inspect, they can cover private development projects, capital projects, and right-of-way fixes in their little area. And now you have 12 inspectors all over town instead of 1 over by 5, over by 6. So those are some of the efficiencies that I'm saying that can be done. Code abatement. That's an area where we go and make sure people get permits if they are doing work without a permit. That's an enforcement type of arrangement, but they're in the inspection field with really low supervision. What I want to do is put them into an enforcement division that's under the same right-of-way enforcement, the same other land use enforcement. So you put all the inspectors and the enforcement agents all together, and they all work together to do the enforcement, and they can be cross-trained and start going different disciplines that way. Obviously, when you combine departments, there's an administration combined with clerical and accounting staff aligned, and you can align them a little bit better. And so we were working on that. Private development, obviously, this reorg would put them underneath the municipal engineer and out from under the building official, which it used to always be. At a minimum, this will save $150,000 in the regular reorganization, just because the efficiencies gained. There's a clerical admin position that I wouldn't hire if we pull over the two admin people from community development. We wouldn't need to fill that position. I did eliminate that. And then there's another big one that the Lamb and Lamb approved, and we've been working on quite a while, and that's the chief of building inspection position. I believe for 10 years under me, I had the IBW, the lead electrical, and the lead mechanical inspector being paid 10% above what their pay was to be able to lead and do the chief of building inspection, instead of hiring the chief of building inspection position, because it kept failing for many, many years. It failed because we were hiring an engineer to oversee tradesmen. It never worked. So what I had done, and it worked for 10 years, we had a sidebar agreement, side letter, and we have that approval into ER again to try to have that. That saves $100,000 because that position, as chief of building inspection position, is like $150,000. So you're going to save at least $100 because you're going to pay them each $20 and then save $100,000. And so my view is something that worked for a decade really worked, and I have worked for a decade almost without it, and it never worked. So it's just a way of making savings work that way and benefit. Now, as you can see, I just put the org chart of basically what this is. And I'm going to go into a second because the mayor asked me to do one additional thing, and that's the next few slides. But in the reorganization, this would be obviously administration division, land use permitting enforcement division, M&O, maintenance mods, PM&E division, building safety division, and traffic division. The only one it added there really is it added two, because land use permitting enforcement used to be under building safety, so I just pulled them and put both of them. So we had two, one that really heads the inspection and enforcement, and one that handles just building safety. So the 181 fund can be separate by itself under the building safety, which works in all of our the budgeting and everything that way. So that's kind of what it is. What I'm going to go into now is one piece the mayor came and saw me about 2 weeks ago, and this is the piece which I'd always presented it to him and felt that it needed to come as well, and that's the piece of zoning and plating, which is the piece that every permit that has a conditional use, all of the variances, all of those processes have to go. And you don't want them to have to go to a different department to all do that. I think it all should be in one department. So a person, literally, if they come get a permit, they go through the process, they need a variance or a conditional use or whatever, that department still can help maintain the time frame and work with that other group to do it. And so the mayor has known that I've always said that one department for everything. And so what I do, and you'll get a copy of what the S version would look like. It basically just brings the zoning and plating division into public works. Then everybody, every single thing will be aligned in one department. And that's the one issue that the mayor said at this point in time, let's do it right. Tell me what would do it right and what would get everything in the process done. And that's what it would be. So it's also what the Lamb and Lamb study said. It said bring zoning, bring building, put it all together, all the permitting things in one, and that's what this would do. So basically, it just clarifies accountability. The other pieces, obviously, in the zoning and planning, there's AMAT's piece that used to be in traffic and was pulled out. Talking with the traffic engineer, she believes that the AMAT should be there. That's the person that makes most of the decisions on AMAT. So it was putting AMATs back into traffic where it should be. And then all of those other functions would then be able to work together, and a true one-shot permitting place would be formed. That would save at least $200,000, if not more. Obviously, the two things that I talked about before there, and then addition to that, I believe OT will definitely go down, and then all of a sudden we start looking at more and more pieces to do efficiencies over time. But I have no doubt that it would save a minimum of 200 and probably go significant more. So all that would do is just add one more division deputy director under public works, which you can see it does that, and then it branches out. And obviously that just puts everything in one department. Obviously, since the mayor asked me to do this, I have talked with AGC. I think they've submitted a letter of support. I've talked to ABC. Most of their members come to our joint meetings, and they have voiced that they're going to support it. AHBA has written a letter and supports it. We also meet all the time with different people. We meet with structural engineers. We meet with Greater Anchorage Area Utility and many more organizations all the time. Regularly scheduled ones, these are kind of the main ones that we meet. I meet with AGC, ABC, HBA quarterly. I meet with HBA by themselves monthly. And so all of these things that we're talking about here in this reorg are things they have brought to the table. They say it in Lamb and Lamb. We've just never put the full proper reorg in place that I think would help. At the end of the day, we deal with all the ASHRAE, American Society Heating and Refrigeration, ICC. We do a lot of training sessions with them, which is IAPMO. They do a lot of the plumbing training, and IEEE, the electrical stuff. So anyway, most of this stuff has to do with my involvement for over 20 plus years, the Lamb and Lamb study, the industry pushing it forward, and that's kind of really just in a real quick nutshell. It's a complex process. It's a very big organization over there. The permitting is large. It's very instrumental to keep the city moving, and the industry has a lot of information, and they sometimes bring great things to the table, and sometimes they don't. But at the end of the day, we work very hard with them. I work hard with the administration. I work hard with all the assembly members that have asked all of the things over time and what we're doing. And in this case, I just request your support of the reorg, even that it's a new mayor's coming, because I think at the end of the day, if the new mayor coming in were to sit down with me, I think they could see that these things are major, efficient, and benefits to the municipality in moving forward and working. And to do it now is the budget's coming through, and the whole point was why it was being done now is that it would be put in the budget, so we wouldn't have to keep it in separate budgets till the end of the year. That it's actually in the budget book and been worked if we move forward. If not, we'll have to change it back. But the whole intent was to try to get this done and approved. So then, at the end of the day, it would come through the reorg and it would come through in the budget. So then I have full control of the budget to be able to handle what we need to do. There were some things that I tried to do this past year. I think we need some new staff, and I was continually told we had no money. Well, at the end, there was a $2 million lapse in the Building Safety Reserve Fund. I think we could have done some things to speed up the repairs in the industry and the speeding up the process if we could have actually looked at those and handled them during that time. But and the entire time that I've been acting for the mayor, I continued to tell him, Larry knows, I told him to, that the nature of making an organization final starts mending and fixing and going a direction. Because right now it's kind of in this, which way is it going to go? Is it going to go into Public Works? Is it going to go over here? That leaves staff kind of questioning where they go. And that really kind of comes down to the only way you get there and get heading toward a goal is to solidify that. And I've told that to the mayor, and finally in January he decided, oh, let's go forward with it, understanding that this was many years in the process. It wasn't short term. This wasn't just to do it for this month or just to do it at the end of this thing. It's been in the works, talked about, and really is the intent and the need of what this department and what the industry needs in all of that permitting area. So that's kind of what I wanted to present, and then just ask you.
Well, thank you. We have some questions for you, Ron. Why don't you take a chair and sit down?
Yeah, you must be out of breath.
Come on, you've been talking for a long time.
I talk a lot.
I know, but I don't want you to fall over. I got two legal people here, and they would charge us, I'm sure, with workman's comp or something. Ms. Gray Jackson first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ron.
First, Ron, I'd like to thank you for your 22 years of service. Wait till he gets settled.
I need one of these two for Bill Starr, who's not here. He wanted one. Thank you. I'll give it to the clerk. We'll make distribution.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are for him.
Okay, you settled now? Okay, great. Now let me start again. Thank you for your 22 years of service to the citizens of Anchorage. I really appreciate it, as I'm sure the rest of us do.
You're next.
And I appreciate the presentation. It was compelling. I have several questions, and the first one is, what percentage of this reorganization has already taken place? All of it? 50%, 70?
When you say what percent, well, what's in the acting mode right now?
What's
is
there?
Building safety or development services is under public works right now that would include the land use enforcement and the building safety. That's what's under that's what I'm overseeing, correct?
Right, so just about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but just about all of the reorganization has happened already before we've approved the ordinance. And
There's been no reorganization. There's, in the reorg
Well, I thought you said it was
requirements, you have to
acting.
send a letter in on the intent of the reorg, and then you operate temporarily until the assembly deals with it. And so temporarily, I'm the acting director, and Bob Kniefel is just he's
so again,
director.
correct me if I'm wrong, so has the reorganization already physically taken place? I'm trying to, I mean.
There's no budget that took place, so everything's exactly the way it
Temporary.
already was. It just, they report through me right now, that's it.
Okay, so part of the reorg is already taking place. My point is, usually when there's a reorg, it comes to the assembly first, and then bodies are moved after that.
Actually,
But anyway,
part of, in the reorg documents and how to do it, it almost always happen, every reorg I've been a part of, which is probably 6, have always happened, operated, and then they go take care of the paperwork out.
okay, well,
There-
I have
there's
a
a reason-
difference of
there's a-
opinion, but that's okay. And then, thank you, Ron. And then my next question is, the three of us were on the assembly in 2010 when the reorg happened, and I thought that reorg, at least this is my memory, was based on the Lamb and Lamb study. To save money, unnecessary positions were deleted. It was supposed to make things more efficient. And again, my memory is that that reorg was based on the Lamb and Lamb study. So I'm kind of confused, seeing what you're saying now and knowing what happened in 2010. And you don't have to answer any question. I'm just telling you what my thoughts are. And one last question. I saw all the organizations that you met with. Did you meet with BOMA too?
I did not, but we talked about adding them to our quarterly meeting at the meeting that we met last
Okay.
was gonna get them involved with us.
Okay. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Jennifer, ma'am.
I got a couple of questions. I like the idea of cross-training and what you're looking at inspectors and the white paper that Sharon and Gary did and adding to that. In that white paper, are you also including some kind of customer survey or as we go forward to see how, you're meeting with the groups, but do we have anything?
What
Are
you're
you
gonna see
looking
in
at
the
that?
back of that pamphlet there is the strategic plan for development services that I helped create at the beginning of trying to head toward the Lamb study. That does take several years to do. If you see in there, development services should have been contracting and outreaching to those public entities with that part of the strategic plan that development services have. We get, and they still receive questionnaires here and there, but they don't do the outreach that's in there. And what I was trying to say is when we get that going, and when this becomes finalized, then we can resurrect all those, the things that were in place that we aren't doing right now. You can see that strategic plan, it was there and finished about 2 years before I went into public works. And they're very clear goals to try to keep meeting with the community, keep surveying them.
And the reason I'm bringing this up, hopefully at some point, we're gonna get digital with our whole department. And so as we're looking at digital frames, how we're going digitally, I hope that you consider having in that this immediate kind of digital customer service survey, because as you know, you can be doing extremely well and being very efficient with this department, and you have 1 or 2 bad apples. And if they don't have a way of getting immediate response, they turn into a cancer versus a little pimple. So that's just one thing that I hope you consider.
Right,
as
you say
your-
digitally, the E-plan, we just selected the vendor on the E-plan review.
And so hopefully we're gonna move along quickly, because that's very important as we go forward. But I hope when you're drafting these things, you think about how do we have that customer service and survey aspect in it. And I'd heard some about the admin positions as far as coming from community development. Are those admin positions, this is to Jerry, are those ones that are being used for other purposes within community development? So if shifting them over to Ron's side, is that going to take away from you for something else, or is it?
We'll let Ron speak to that, but I certainly have my comments on this whole subject.
But but for those two positions, I'm just asking about those positions.
The two positions in the first one, Jerry gave me the names of the two people that would come over in the
that's a
regular
question.
version.
Okay.
In the S1 version, it would be 4 people.
4 people.
And it would all be the ones that are handling the budget, the financing, the AMATS money, not the, in those admin positions. They'd fit right in with my admin, financial, budgeting, payroll, all those things.
So their basic duties come along with the duties that you're.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to put my notes on this, so I have to.
It's all right, we take electronic notes.
Yeah, if I could only trust my memory. And then this part, so will you be the direct interface with both planning and zoning board and with plating, or are you going to be sharing that with community development? I mean,
Well, if, in the S version,
Mhm.
they would be working together. In the normal version. In the S1 version, it would be all coming into Public Works, and then that section would be working through the Public Works director, but obviously you have a deputy director that runs all zoning and planning, just like they do now.
and so for the most part, a lot of the community development side would be doing more of the long-term planning.
Yes.
And
That's what would be left,
you
yes.
would be doing the functional. Okay, I wanted to make sure I had that clear. I think that's it.
That's it, ma'am, or no?
Yeah, that's it.
Tim?
Yeah, I had some experience with doing a major remodel and basically getting rid of a lot line, replat, and so on and so forth. And I was extremely frustrated. That was before I got on the assembly. One of the things that I was happy to see when I got here was that we were trying to move forward with electronic plan review. And I remember having a conversation with you, and you seemed pretty negative on electronic plan review, basically saying you're not going to see the savings, people aren't going to use it. kind of
What I
thing.
said is you won't see that instant savings. Over time, within a year or two after training and getting everybody, and you're doing dual monitors, plan review, it's really easy to roll up 3 sheets and look page to page. It takes a little longer when you're looking at a page here and then a back page in it. It takes a little longer. What I said is, yes, you will see a savings. It just won't be in that first year, and it may not be in the second year. Once everybody gets up to speed with the electronics and doing that, and everybody starts submitting that way, then yes, you will see. And I'm always, I think for whatever reason you must have getting something, read into something I said in a different way. I am a major supporter of technology. I helped buy the Hansen system. That's what we just got the visions fixed and back operational, and the E-Plan is the next thing. So absolutely I'm for it. That's why we pushed for the GIS. I have GIS people back in. We used to have tech services, and we had all that function that went away, didn't work. We got it back, and now those folks are going. So I'm a big digital age, new way, but so the only thing that I'm saying is you don't expect a savings that first year.
It's a learning curve. The one thing I was frustrated with also once I got on the assembly was that we were trying to get the electronic plan review, get it expended or get it selected and have it done. We've been 2 years drafting an RFP and then getting it out. I'm glad to hear that that vendor's been selected, but somebody was dragging their feet, and so I'm a little concerned about that. It seems to me the ones that are going to benefit from this are the contractors and the architects who are doing who can have fast turnaround with regards to corrections on
And we'll have less people coming in the front door, which always speeds things up for lines in the thing. So, I wasn't a part of anything with regard to E-plan review until January this year when it was turned over to me and the RFP was getting out on the street, and we moved forward as fast as we can since.
I would like to make sure we have time to hear from others also.
Fine. Amy, then
Hi.
Elvie.
Thanks. I have a couple questions. When you were talking about the Hansen system, you said you needed full control to fix some things. What things was it you needed full control that you couldn't fix without?
Well, basically, when he called me in the past, I just said I need to be the project manager and lead on that project because I was the one who purchased it. We had it ready to go live when I resigned to take the public works position. It got taken down a different track, and that track never was operational for the last 5 years. So I wanted full control of that project to be able to make the calls and the saves and keep make the flow charts and the processes and the requirements together. But basically, it was just to be a lead of the project, and we brought everybody that operates into a tech committee. I just put them in for an employee work unit of the year because a group of about 15 or 18 people assembled and worked on this. And basically, I just kind of facilitated making it happen with IT's help. And it was a successful, incredible 6 months. But we kept making goals and we kept finishing them, and we got a product that now we're ready to do the enhancements. So the next piece is we went to the IT steering committee to do the next piece, which is now we can upgrade to the new version. We couldn't upgrade until we fixed all the things that were not working. We fixed those now we can go to the next stage. And then the next piece is the E-plan tying to this, and then it'll be functional together. But there was no reason that system was not operational, and I wanted, that was the one thing because when he says, oh, you're going to go in and be acting for building safety or whatever, I wanted the additional piece of making sure I could work on that software and get it working. So that's the statement that I made.
The second question I have is, you said there are key elements that are not being tracked right now during the process. What are those key elements? Is there too many to list?
No, I mean, I used to have a measurement of about 16 or 18 measurements that I always measured and always tracked, and turnaround times, and all those things that I'd lock down and specifically make sure happen. I mean, if you can maintain a 10-day turnaround, you can maintain a 4-day turnaround. You just got to do a big push to get it down to 4 days, then you can maintain it. And my view is a difference in philosophy with me and some other folks, in the sense that I like speed, I like getting things done quickly, and I put goals and measurements to be able to track that. And when we meet that, great. If not, I'm going to ask a question about why are we not meeting that turnaround time. Right now, we're maintaining 10-day turnaround on residential. If you can maintain 10, you can maintain 4. You're not going up, and that's the push. You just have to sometimes put extra effort to get there and set some strong goals. And I could get you a copy of all those measurements. I haven't really done them in years, so at the end of the day, I mean, I just have to resurrect all these things that I was measuring. And some of them are in our performance measures, but I think some of them are not truly saying the full picture of what goes on. And that's what you're hearing in the community. It's, you know, we're hearing that it's all good and we're doing everything and meeting our terms, but I don't know if I fully see that.
Thank you.
Ms. Gray Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ron, how many positions were moved from community development to public works?
How many what?
Positions?
That's probably around 70.
70?
They haven't been moved. They're just, all they are is temporarily reporting to me.
Well, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
it's part of the reorg. Okay,
Right.
so 70.
70.
Thank you. And let me just continue and just say that personally, my opinion is I'm very supportive of reorganizations always when it's the right thing to do, because change is, makes a difference sometimes if it's the right thing to do. And your presentation was compelling, but it also affects community development, and also known as Mr. Reaver. And he said that he certainly has his comments. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, I would really like to know what his comments are. I don't want to put you on the spot. I really don't. But I want to know what you have to say about this reorganization that
Jerry,
is
are you
affecting
comfortable
you.
coming and talking to us?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm not putting you on.
We'll spend about 5 minutes with you, Jerry.
Also.
Okay, and
For
can you?
decades of public service to the community of Anchorage. I grew up here, so I was privileged to be able to serve the citizens of the community.
I didn't hear the first part.
It's ultimately going to be your decision what to do about this reorganization, but we need to go back and look at the reasons as why we did it in 2010. The Land report specifically said merge planning and building safety together. That's exactly what we said. It's exactly what we did. You have to have the correct span, control, and authority in any organization, and especially a bureaucracy, to get those efficiencies and put the functionality of the work in proper departments. Public Works has about 261 employees. Community Development has 96. And when we reorg, we realized the savings of over $600,000 a year on a reoccurring basis. We documented all those changes. We upgraded positions, we downgraded positions, we eliminated positions. On the development side, the reason Public Works was created, it was created to act as an owner manager of public infrastructure. Community development was reorg to deliver permitting, the permitting side of it. And you really need to separate the two sides of it, which we did, because this structure, this department, requires day-to-day vigilance to make sure the citizens are being delivered the product that they need and want. We had, I'll go through this a little bit, but we made budget every year for the past 6 years. We put money back into the budget every 6 years. We were staff constrained every year. When 2008, Public Works had, Development Service had 60 employees. We pushed down to 31 employees. We were delivering the same services with 31 employees. So we created a lot of efficiencies for the taxpayer. So ultimately, your decision, look at the size of the department, look at the functionality of the departments, and see if this is really what you want to do. Because the last part I saw, the S version, dismantles the planning department.
Questions from other semi-members? Mr. Weaver, anything? Okay, thank you, Jerry. Mr. Knievel, you want to talk to us for a couple minutes on this?
No.
It's your choice. Okay.
No.
No opinion.
That's fine. I was just asked by the semi-member to offer it to you. More than happy to do that. Any other questions from the semi-members?
I would
Yes, Tim.
like to ask Jerry one question with regards to timing of doing this. Do you think making the shift at this point in time is going to be disruptive to this year's construction season?
I don't think it's going to be disruptive at all, because we've got a bunch of great employees that are still functioning every day, that have been temporarily moved to the new organizational structure. They do their job day in and day out. That, but it requires supervision
you can ask him.
every day. At
They
all
don't have to
levels
answer.
make it work.
Thank you.
Ms. Gray Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Frost is in the audience, and I know that Bob Knievel is temporary, so I can understand why he doesn't have anything to say. But Mr. Frost is a longtime employee, and I was just wondering, if I may, Mr. Chairman, do you have anything to say, that you'd like to say, Mr. Frost? Yes, no, maybe? Tomorrow?
You can plead the fifth.
There's a lot of statements from both sides here that I agree with, that we have fantastic employees that are continuing to deliver the service no matter who they report to. Organizationally, the new proposal for the organization structure, regardless of who's in place, makes a lot of sense for consolidating all the services under one philosophy, if you will. So if there's a process that needs to be adjusted or workflow or metrics monitored,
the substitute version also? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Any
Chairman.
other questions from assembly members?
Administration, are there any comments from Mayor's office?
I think it's principally an outgrowth of a lot of meetings with the industry. There's been and I think you probably all have heard it as well as we have. You know, the representatives of the industry have come forward and said, please do this. We need efficiencies. We need one-stop shop. And that's the reason that after much discussion and a lot of time that we brought it forward. I know the timing, you know, we're close to transition, but this is the building season. This is when they're really busy. You know, you probably have seen some of the letters of support from the various groups and organizations. I don't know how many hundreds there's going to be there for the testimony, but there's a lot of interest in this in the industry because we're right at the time that it's important. And so we brought it forward at the request, looking at it, the LAM study, as well as the industry is really concerned, and time is money. And that's the reason that it's in front of you.
Thank you. Ms. Gray Jackson,
Thank you,
final
Mr. Chairman.
comment?
Thank you, Mr. Baker, for your comments. So there are going to be hundreds on Tuesday?
I don't know, but,
Okay.
but
Just
for
wondering.
the for the number of people that have called, I don't know. That's probably Rod could probably turn off the horses.
Line up in the industry, there'll probably be 20.
Yeah,
Okay, then.
I mean, they'll send their organizational reps to probably speak. I don't think all of them will speak. I think that just, you know, AGC's president will probably come speak, HBA, something like that. I don't think they're going to want to try to inundate you with this and that. They're just going to be there to try to support something to move forward that leads toward efficiencies, and that's what they're there for.
Right, and if I can follow up, Mr. Chairman, thank you,
Go ahead,
Ron.
Mary.
And I didn't mean that. I didn't want to hear from the hundreds. I just want to be prepared. You know?
Bring your jammies and pillow or what? Yes, Pete.
I've just been sitting here trying to think about all this, and we're going to be buying an electronic plan review system relatively shortly. And are we going to basically be reorganizing the department again when we get finished doing that, or?
No,
That's probably up to the
This
mayor.
really is, I mean, it's, like Jared said, we have good employees. This is just realigning a couple and putting a couple budgets in a different, couple of alignments, and they have different reporting structure. At the end of the day, this is getting everything in one area to make it efficient, effective, and then the plan review is just a process in the permitting, so it will go in there, and it just gets routed to people separately. They really have kind of no tie except for its plan review and permitting will be done through the direction. And the nice thing with that is, under one direction, one department director, they can dictate the business processes that match the software to get there faster. Hopefully that makes sense.
Anything else? Ron, I've got one question for you. I have an email you sent to your secretary. Telling your secretary I've been asked to get letters sent to semi-members, and you directed your secretary to go get signatures on this from the people underneath you. What was the rationale with that, Ron?
I'll tell you exactly the rationale. They all were part of writing it. So I've been asked, and they said, geez, we should try to get, I've been asked by industry, by people saying, you know, there's people not liking this, so you might want to drum up and let people know that people that are in the organization are behind this, and it's not you designing it by yourself. So I was on the tarmac in Seattle, getting ready to fly to Mexico to meet my daughter. I wrote a quick email. I said, hey, I didn't direct them anything. I said, I'd love for you guys to sign on and support it. That's what it says. I'd love for you to support
I've got a
it.
copy of it, Ron.
I
It
know.
doesn't say,
I-
it's directing your secretary to go get signatures from each of the department heads.
Yeah, but if it didn't.
I'll give you a copy of it if you don't remember it. I have it. I'm just
At
saying,
the end of the day,
it makes it hard for your employees.
What's that?
Makes it hard for your employees if your
you
secretary is
look at
saying, sign it.
This document here, with regard to the strategic plan, I always consensus build in an organization. I don't do it myself. I get all the employees in the room. Every one of my deputy directors that I asked, and whoever was in that room, sat with me to look at this org, make it work right, decide it right, and not one of my staff, there could be one that took it wrong, I don't know, but not one of my staff knows that I forced them to do anything.
Okay.
They have complete control of their area. They're deputy directors. I fully give them the power to make the decisions on a daily basis. And in this, they can make the decision to write on or not. You probably didn't get the second email that I also sent that also tells everybody when I landed in Mexico, I was like, hey, I didn't want anybody to think that you had to, but if you do, great. I don't even know if I'll pass it forward. I mean, as always, and exactly in that language, I never force anybody to do anything. My staff loves working for me. We get a lot of things done. I mean, you know what? They know that I drive a fast ship. It's got to go and it's got to speed and we got to move. But it's like there's no way that I would force anybody to do anything in that manner. So I don't know what or how that got construed that way. But I can tell you, my staff, I mean, that's not how we operate.
Okay.
At all. They run their areas and they run them good, and I get involved if we need to solve something, but I mean, that's.
Sometimes that's a problem using email.
Yeah.
It doesn't always mean what you want it to mean
Right,
when you send it
exactly.
out.
I mean, to me, I got a great staff, I got a great group of people that are in that room that help me put all these org charts together, because I have the org charts all set up for all of this. That's what I went to, budgeting with. That's what's in the, you know, they're trying to hopefully get this passed, so then the budget's ready to go, and so we're trying to be ahead of that and get that taken care of. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's you know, there's so many people in the old building safety that are really glad to have me back, so.
Ms. Dombrowski, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't debate this at this point, but I will say that I have received the Lamb and Lamb study, and I started to read it, and I got a little busy, so I haven't finished it yet. But, you know, my initial first blush was a little bit of concern. What Jerry had said, I was concerned we were kind of undoing the 2010 rework. There's no question I want to see efficiencies in this department, or these departments together. But the other thing that I am very concerned about is the fact that this seems to be a significant shift in an organization, and some of the letters that I've read specifically say we support you, Ron, which is a great thing. That means people value you. But what I know from building organizations, you never build an organization based on a person. You base an organization restructure based on functionality.
Has to be the concept.
So, yeah, so I'm going to take the time, and I hope other assembly members do this as well, but I'm going to take the time this weekend to reread the Lamb and Lamb report from cover to cover, because I want to make sure anything that we do, number one, is not undoing the efficiencies that we did in 2010, but is actually going to be effective in dealing with some of the bottlenecks that we have at these two departments. But, you know, my third point that I am concerned about, regardless of who takes over in July, there is going to be a significant change in administration philosophy probably, and potentially organization, and to make a move this big.
This close to new administration?
Yeah, it concerns me.
I've heard the same
Because-
thing, Amy.
Because regardless of who it is, the next mayor may come in and have different ideas, and then we're back at this again in 2 months. So it's just something to consider, but I would just, I'm going to take the time to reread that study again, and I would just encourage other members who haven't seen it maybe to ask Bart before it.
Pete, do you want a copy of it?
I would.
I saw your hat.
I wasn't on the assembly back in 1997 like you were, Dick.
I can get that to Barbara. and she can-
You're bad. Jeez.
Handwritten.
But I do appreciate all the comments. It was wonderful just to hear both sides.
Anything else? We're done then. Thank you for being here.